My name is Mike Fratto, editor of Network Computing, and I'm also chairing the data center and storage tracks at Interop. Just a little bit about myself, because I was asking the other track chairs the same question. I've been working with network computing for over 14 years, testing products, covering vendors, vendor trends and technologies. Also spent a lot of time talking to enterprise folks from the admin up to the CIO about their issues and their thoughts and views on various technologies. For a while, I managed a network computing lab where we had a full data center with some 400 servers. We had several dozen pieces of equipment for networking, routing, and storage to run the lab. There are a number of things that are driving trends in the data center. Business demands are driving changes in how IT resources are being acquired and being used. There's a renewed focus on reliability. Partly this is being driven by the push behind cloud computing and better reliability than what you can have in your own data center. So that's sort of raising the reliability awareness up into IT's mindset and into management's mindset. If a service provider, if a cloud provider can guarantee 5 nines reliability, why can't the enterprise? There are a lot of changes going on in networking, primarily to support virtualization, storage virtualization, server virtualization, and of course networking virtualization to make apps more mobile. There's also a lot more choice in servers and storage. So you can go with rack mount servers, chassis servers, and there's a whole family of things around chassis-based servers. You're looking at the kinds of I/O ports that you can put into a chassis, how they can be shared, how memory can be shared, how CPUs can be shared. So there's a whole realm of things going on in servers that are being driven by demands within IT, demands within enterprises to make more efficient use of resources. And of course, there are a number of changes going on in storage. And if you're outside the storage realm, you may not be aware of a lot of the changes, but the storage space is actually pretty exciting. Some of these technologies have been around for a number of years, the concept of thin provisioning, so you provision storage on demand, sort of a little sleight of hand, fake-out management. There's a lot of things going on with deduplication, with replication, and just making storage more robust and more flexible so it'll meet the other IT demands being driven by cloud computing and virtualization and reliability. Within the data center track, some of the things that we're focusing on are planning. Planning's critical. If you've been in IT for a while, you know that you have to have an IT plan. You have to be able to execute on that plan. And so we sort of start and end the session focusing on reliability and capacity planning. First of all, how do you build a reliable system? What are some of the things you want to look at? It's not enough to take 3 pieces of equipment, which may all have 5 nines reliability, but if A is dependent on B and B is dependent on C, you don't retain that 5 nines reliability. It's actually 0.9999 times 3, which is some number less than 5 nines. Reliability, how do you get there? What are the kinds of technologies or processes and procedures you put in place in order to increase reliability? It's a critical aspect of managing a data center and managing an IT system. Next up is capacity planning. Capacity planning is always something of a dark art. It takes some skills, some experience to determine how to size your servers, how to size the IT infrastructure for the particular application that you want to use. But when we start getting into virtualization and capacity planning, it takes on a whole new realm because now you're sharing the same resources across multiple machines. So how can you roll that out and plan for that capacity? Virtualization hypervisors will do some very interesting things with memory, so you can allocate a certain amount of memory to a virtual machine, but it won't actually use it. So again, you can thin provision your RAM in order to make better use of it, but you always have to be aware of when you thin provision the RAM that you might need that pretty quickly, and if you don't have it, it can start to impact performance. So there are a number of things around capacity planning, not only for servers, but for storage and networking that we're going to be addressing. We're going to take something of a deep dive into multipath Ethernet. This is a session I'm particularly interested in. We have engineers from Cisco and Brocade, and we're trying to get one more from another vendor to really talk about ways to deploy multipath Ethernet. How do you make it most effective? What are the best design practices? How do particular vendors take on multipath Ethernet differ from other vendors? And start to get to the point where you can start to figure out what the different vendors are doing, what the trade-offs are between standards-based multipath Ethernet and some of the proprietary extensions. So that should be a really good session to get a good understanding of multipath Ethernet. And then we have a session on unified compute, storage, and networking platform, a vendor-neutral discussion of what are the things to look for when you look at a unified computing system. What are the kinds of integration points? How should they be integrated? What are the kinds of API features are you looking for? And how can you take this unified computing platform, select the one that's going to work best for your organization, and then get the most out of it? We have a great debate with Stu Miniman and Stephen Foskett. It's being moderated by Howard Marks, iSCSI and Fiber Channel. And we're going to dispel some myths in that particular panel session. And then we're going to focus on the practices to support big data initiatives. So next up we have Howard Marks, founder and chief scientist for DeepStorage.net, a storage consultancy. And he's going to be moderating a panel, the great debate, iSCSI beats Fiber Channel. Howard, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Mike.
What do you expect to come out of this panel?
Well, I expect that the experts on each side will bring out some of the usual arguments that iSCSI is less expensive to implement and more obvious to manage for people who haven't ever seen Fiber Channel, or that Fiber Channel is more commonly used in large environments and iSCSI is really just a toy. I hope that in addition to the heat, we actually shed some light on the subject and show that there are many ways to implement shared storage, and as the old horse player's motto goes, there are different horses for different courses.
We have Stu Miniman, senior analyst with Wikibon, been in storage for a number of years, and Stephen Foskett with Gestalt IT, and both of those guys are really good speakers, are really knowledgeable. The goal of the debate is to decide a winner of the debate.
And the audience, of course, gets to decide that. I'm there basically to ask the tough questions and to make sure that when there's more heat than light, I get to say, no, not really. But isn't it true that?
Well, you're also going to be out talking to audience members as well and encouraging them to ask questions.
Yes, and hopefully we'll have audience members that have started with one technology and switched to the other and ask that all-important question, why? And did it turn out to be a mistake?
Howard, it sounds like it's going to be a really great debate. I'm glad you're moderating it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun with Stu and Steve and you up on stage. Thanks, Howard.
Okay, talk to you later, Mike.